Today on Drew Reviews, we take a look at the much maligned and often panned Predator 2. Does it deserve a second look? We're going to find out next on Drew Reviews. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Predator 2 is one of those very polarizing movies. After Predator, which is universally loved by just about everybody who's watched it, I think, to this point, if you're into sci-fi and action, you take it out of the jungle and put it into this urban setting. So from the inception of the movie in 1990 to pretty much today, this movie's been much maligned by most people who have watched it. There are a small sect of people, including myself, who watch Predator 2 and really enjoy it for what it is. If you take this movie and watch it for what it is a fun, dumb action movie. It's not even really that dumb. There is a lot of detective work going on there, and there's that shadow government conspiracy thing going on, and I like all that. But real briefly, the plot of Predator 2, you've got these Colombian and South American and Jamaican gangs. They're all doing drugs, fighting for who can sell in LA. Of course, Danny Glover, he plays Mike Harrigan, him and his team, one of which is Mary Conchita Alonso, who was in The Running Man, oddly enough. Good to see her in something else, even if her delivery in one of the lines, "We're dying down here, man." I always thought that delivery was just a little bit off. But they're caught in the middle of it, and in all this, the predator comes because there's like a heat wave. It's 107 degrees or something like that, and so all this is going on. In the meantime, this company OWLF, I believe they're called. They're the feds basically, headed up by Gary Busey. They come in and they've been tracking the predator for 10 years pretty much because this movie takes place in 1997, and they've been tracking the predator. And of course, Glover's character of Harrigan keeps getting in their way until eventually they have to work together there just before that third act. But that's pretty much it as far as the plot's concerned. I can remember as a kid, I had the VHS tape of this, and I believe the tagline was, "He's coming to town with a few days to kill." And I thought that was really cool, even if I didn't appreciate the movie like I did the first one, back then when I was like an 11-year-old kid. An 11-year-old kid probably shouldn't be watching this movie in hindsight. Um, this movie almost got an NC-17 rating. I read somewhere they had to take this movie back to the MPAA like 17 times or something insane like that. Keep cutting down scenes for nudity and gore and graphic violence. This movie's just full of all that, which a kid growing up in the 80s and 90s, I was all about that. But I like the fact that this movie dares to be different. Yes, it's urban. There's all this gang cartel stuff going on, but you got Danny Glover, who's not Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's not supposed to be in this movie. He is a hard-nosed cop. I keep waiting in some of those scenes, especially when he's up on the roof and he's scared of heights. I do like that they put that in there. He's not all invincible. He has his weaknesses. But I keep waiting for him. He keeps saying these lines about dang stupid birds. I keep waiting for him to say, "I'm too old for this." But it never happens, and I thought that was a missed opportunity. But I like him in this movie. Everybody on his team, Jerry, played by the great Bill Paxton, and of course, this movie marks uh, officially where Bill Paxton's been killed by a Terminator, an Alien, and a Predator. Mark all those off his bucket list there. I like Gary Busey and all his guys. The guy who would play Jane later in Fireflies, his big heavy. Gary Busey's really good in this role, just as crazy as ever. The Predator in this. I really like the Predator. I think maybe he was supposed to have been like a younger Predator who relied more on his gadgets because he had a bunch of them in this movie. He had the big spear that retracted that he didn't have in the first one. He had the net that, of course, he shot around the cartel member, and of course, all the pressure, it ended up cutting through him. That was really cool. He has this big disc that's like a skill saw, which Danny Glover ends up using to kill him later. I really like that they made this Predator different. Of course, the great Kevin Peter Hall ended up playing the Predator in this one once again, and he was amazing in all of these movies. And speaking of the Predator, another point that I really wanted to make. that hasn't really been talked about a lot is this Predator is kind of the good guy in this movie when you think about it. He's taken out cartel members and drug dealers and drug lords. He's taken down Gary Busey and his shadow government agency. You could really look at it as the Predators coming in and taking out LA's city trash. Most of the gang members, I thought they were pretty cool. You had a lot of those stock 80s and 90s action villains in those roles. So while the cast wasn't quite as bombastic and robust as that first cast in the original Predator, I do like this cast quite a bit. I love the musical score in this movie. Alan Silvestri, a lot of his cues are used in this movie as well, and I thought that was a really nice callback to the first movie. There's some really nice visuals in this movie. That scene where the Predator, he has Jerry's skull and spine, and he climbs up to the top of that Eastern building. I might actually use that uh, as a thumbnail or show it right here. That's a really cool shot. I like the shot there at the end where Harrigan ends up fighting the Predator, and in his ship. I thought that was really cool. How it's all lit. You've got the trophy case, of course, with the alien skull, which would foreshadow Alien versus Predator, which that's that's what we needed, the way those went, right? But yeah, I liked all that. I liked the way this movie was shot. It was pretty dark, as far as, when they're in that Colombian drug lord's lair and they're searching around with their flashlights. I thought the cinematography was really well done, and I like the predator vision in this movie. And I like the fact that when they're there in that meatpacking plant, whenever Keyes thinks he has him dead to rights, and uh, the predator ends up, flipping through his screens and he actually sees the infrared that's going on, the ultraviolet stuff. I thought that was a really nice touch to this as well. And it all backfired on Keyes. Aside from the musical cues, there's some good callbacks to the first movie. In that first movie, you had the deal with Mac, turn around at any time, and the laugh from Billy. In this one, you have the kid on the playground. Do you want some candy? Which he says to Jerry just before he kills him that subway, which was a really cool scene. I thought that scene was lit really well. If you're epileptic, you probably don't want to watch that. With all the shots going off, how it's lit, but it was striking visually. And one last thing I really liked about this movie really did a lot for the lore of the Predator, where they're there in that ship when Danny Glover takes him out and all the other Predators come in. He gets that gun, the Raphael, which you would later see many years later in Prey. I had a review of Prey up on this channel. It was my second review I ever did late last year. I took it down because I think I can do better, and I'm going to do another review of Prey later on down the line. Now, as far as things that are like, you know, as far as like I said, Alonzo's dialogue's off in that one scene just a little bit. And I want to know how the Predator ship ended up getting under this apartment building without anybody noticing. You know, there at the end of the movie, it's like, did you guys notice that? It's underneath the elevator somehow, but nobody knew it was there until, of course, it takes off and blows a huge hole out the side of it. But I thought that was just a little bit weird. There's that scene in the meatpacking plant where after Harrigan shoots the predator down, he takes his mask off, and you're one ugly mother, and of course the eyes remind me of Looney Tune eyes for some reason, and that was just a little bit off-putting. I don't know if they were just different or not quite as sunken in as they were in that first Predator movie, but I did think that really held up. I thought it looked kind of goofy. I guess you could look at Tony Pope's character, played by Morton Downey Jr., as kind of a negative, but he was actually a pretty prominent talk show host back then. Of course, Harrigan knocks him out there at the end. And this really intrusive investigative reporter, and you just grow to hate that character as this goes on. But I actually kind of liked him in this movie, as just off-putting as he was. Um, to me, Predator 2 is one of these movies that if you didn't like it, but you haven't seen it in decades, I think you should give it another chance. It's one of those movies that just it's got this stigma about it because it's not like the first, and it was kind of a box office bomb. People not they just don't give it a chance, and I feel like it's unfairly judged as far as that goes. Overall, I'm going to give Predator 2 a 7.3 out of 10. I don't think it's quite a 7.5. I think it's a little better than 7.25. So yeah, right in there's where it sets. It's way better than what it gets credit for. as far as just being this fun action movie with some really good characters you can associate with. And I think if you've not seen it in forever, you should give it another chance. So, guys, that pretty much wraps up this review. Thank you for sticking it out till the end. If you like what you see, guys, be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, I'm Andrew, and I'll see you down the line.